Hey, what's up everyone? So this video is for 350Z and G35 owners with the DE engine like this one right here, which is mine. I'm seeing a ton of new owners asking which intake is best, and so I've compiled a ton of information to help you out. This video will break down several popular intakes by the cost involved, the gain seen on a dyno, and to add some humor to it, I've thrown in like this arbitrary Instagram clout points scheme just because I thought it would be hilarious. While I'm not covering every intake on the market, I'm covering the popular ones that I see a lot of on the builds that I see. If I miss something or you want to discuss more results, definitely feel free to drop a comment and we can, in the video, and we can discuss it from there. Without further ado, let's move on to the intakes, and I'll cover the intakes from there. First up is the AdminTuning intake for Instagram clout points. Gets a total of 5 out of 5. Moncep's a cool dude and everyone swears by his intakes and tunes. For wheel horsepower gains, I'm seeing anywhere between 16 to 24. The price is $330 for the short ram intake, plus $550 for the tune. So the cost per wheel horsepower varies. It's $55 per horsepower for 16 wheel horsepower, if that's how much you make, to $36 per wheel horsepower, at the maximum of 24 listed that I could find. So my overall verdict is it is a good buy. As one reviewer mentioned on his site, 15 wheel horsepower gains switching from another intake. So it would definitely be better value if you'd done it right once the first time. Next up is Limp Mode Tuning. The Instagram clout points, maybe a 2 out of 5. They totally deserve more clout points though. My interactions with them have been nothing but positive, but it definitely seems like they lost out on the hype caused by AdminTuning. I checked the dyno sheets on Instagram, and I'm seeing 22 wheel horsepower gains on a rev up and 17 on a 5-speed automatic 350Z. The price of the intake is $320 for the intake and $550 for a tune. So the cost per wheel horsepower varies. It would be $39 a wheel horsepower for that rev up that made 22. And then $51 for the 17 wheel horsepower gain on that Auto 350Z. My verdict is that honestly, I'd expect similar gains as the AdminTuning intake, but the brand itself just doesn't have the hype of of their competition. All right, next up is the Z1 Street intake. The Instagram clout, that's not a lot. While Z1 themselves enjoy like maximum Instagram clout, their intakes get around like a 3 out of 5 for both the street and race versions. Pricing, the street version is $298 and is $308 for the race version. Just keep in mind the race version requires a tune to run. So the gains, the only dyno I could find shows 8 wheel horsepower for the street version and 14 for the race. The cost per wheel horsepower is $37 per wheel horsepower for the street version, but I'm basically disqualifying the race version from this comparison because the dyno doesn't indicate any sort of tuning. The description just doesn't mention a tune in any way. All right, next up is Mishimoto. The Instagram clout for the intake is basically none. I figure most Z and G owners didn't even know Mishimoto makes an intake for the car. The gains for it, 10 wheel horsepower is advertised. The cost is $208. So the cost per wheel horsepower comes in at a pretty low $20.80 per wheel horsepower gained. So the verdict is that as uncool as running a Mishimoto airbox might sound, it's definitely the best cost to power ratio on this list so far. All right, let's take a look at the JWT pop charger. Instagram clout. Unlike the Mishimoto, everyone at least recognizes the Jim Wolf Technology pop charger, whatever they might think of it. The cost is just $110. The gains that I see on some dynos are 6.5 wheel horsepower. So the cost per wheel horsepower is just under $17 per wheel horsepower gained. So the verdict is that I'd say it's the best value, and you can also still get an upgraded Z-tube for a bit of visual pop. Last and not least is the Injen intake. The Instagram clout, it's recognizable, but I figure people would tell you it will ingest water if driven in the rain. So, like, opinions of the intake itself are mixed. The cost is $313, and the gains are advertised as 16 wheel horsepower. So the cost per wheel horsepower is $19.50 per wheel horsepower gained. My verdict is I honestly wasn't expecting the engine to do this well, but I couldn't find any dynos suggesting the gains aren't as much. On the plus side, the Injen is carb certified, so you can run it in California. All right, so instead of like one clear-cut winner for the best intake period, I thought I would kind of break it down into segments, like pretty much like a market segment. So starting with the low end or budget segment, I would lean towards the Mishimoto. While the JWT pop charger is a great buy, I'm really not sure you can feel 6.5 wheel horsepower difference at the wheels, whereas 10 is definitely there. Like you should be able to feel that difference there. And quite honestly, it's not that much more expensive than the pop charger. For the mid-range, is a bit of a tie. I am like between the Injen long tube intake and the Z1 Street intake. If you do go with the Injen intake, be sure to get the hydro shield so you don't, suck water up into your engine and destroy it. The Street intake is pretty much like the like what I'm running here, minus the race version, so it maintains the 3-inch piping through the math section. The Street Intune doesn't require a tune to run. That's pretty much a big difference between the two, but similar gains between the two, similar cost. It's really just up to you which one to run. For the high-end segment though, I'm leaning towards the AdminTuning intake. If I was to start over with my build again, like AdminTuning wasn't a thing when I bought my Z, but if I was to get tuned for an intake, I would spring even a bit more for the long tube intake. I couldn't find very many dynos on that, but yeah, I would probably go with the AdminTuning. So if you enjoyed my videos, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for future content, and keep on modding.